Hello.
Top of the evening.
Hi.
I like the backdrop.
Oh, thank you. That's the Science Museum in Glasgow when we went a few years ago.
Very cool.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance to go to Scotland, man, you ought to go. It's amazing.
I'll bet you. It looks like quite the building.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good size. But my favorite place there was the Glenlivet's Distillery.
Hard to believe.
You're allowed to taste 14 different kinds of scotch. I was a happy camper.
And your wife said.
Very nice.
Lights are so bad.
Ah, there's Frank. Almost.
Frank the Rio.
That one is shining down.
Hey, Frank.
Good evening, friends.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just hope I did everything right.
You said you never did anything wrong.
Ah,
I'm sure someone in this group will
if you
point
talk
out,
to my wife, you'll know that's not true.
someone in this group will point out your errors very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
That's a neat idea, actually, having a drive-through.
Oh, yeah. Was actually it's so that we can not have people in our house.
Yeah. Well, you're down in my family's neighborhood. You go over the other side. You go over the other side of that bridge. And
Yeah.
the second house on the right is where my grandfather was born.
Oh, cool.
The Carver family.
Yeah, I was trying to find pictures of this area when it was a big logging place. You know, when the Duck Trap used to be a shipping center.
What did you find?
Nothing. I haven't been
I
able
could
to
have
find
told you that.
anything. How you doing, Jay?
How you doing?
Hi, Jay.
And there's William.
Full house.
Yeah.
Did anybody hear from Janice?
Not I.
I didn't either.
No.
I saw her a week ago and she asked me if we were having a meeting. And I told her yes, next week. So a week ago, she was aware of it.
Good. I don't know if she picked up her packet.
Everyone picked up the package is what I understand.
Good. So Scott, how do I see little flashes of another person behind you?
That's my wife. She's if you're not directly in front of the camera, the backdrop kind of fades out.
Oh, how cool.
I went away.
She's here to whack me upside the head if I do it wrong.
If you can't hear me well tonight, I noticed my link is having a little problem. It's a little bit weak. Sometimes you come across scratching. Can you hear me okay?
Not okay.
Sometimes, but you're cutting out a lot.
I can't hear anything you guys just said. It's just scratches, okay?
You're all broken up.
You can hear me all right?
Not all right.
So far. Not
I
all the
can.
time. But
Okay.
I can hear you.
I showed it's
Oh,
only
yeah,
6:55.
Only gonna cost us $8,000 to get high-speed internet access down here. If anybody can move into a neighborhood, that'll cut it in half. I didn't hear that.
I'm showing we have 4 minutes, so we have to wait, right, to 7 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Elizabeth, if you'd like, before we start, when we actually get started, I can give a segue if anyone is interested to give us a little bit of direction, because this is an undocumented area that we're in, ordinance wise. I have the comparison of what Kennebunk, Camden, Bangor, and Belfast uses in a scenario like this. So this will give us some kind of a comparison. And then the rest of it is going to be common sense judgment on the part of the planning board if they agree that this is the best way that they're going to feel comfortable with this time. Because this has been a thorn on our side in the past. I think it's time we kind of nailed it down as something that we can all count on each time. Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
So I know we have a minute or two left, but if Janice isn't here and Scott is not able to participate this evening as a board member, can we appoint both both Bill and Jay? 1, 2, 3.
Is Bill on?
We can't hear you, Jay.
You can't hear
Your
me?
volume's down.
But you love computers.
Can you hear me now?
We
Just
can hear
Very
you
little.
Just barely.
How about now?
quite, no, very low. We can hear you, but it's
Not like we can usually hear you.
I heard that.
Ah,
That was a test, Jay.
Can you hear me now?
we
Very, very
your
low.
your volume's still low.
can hear you, but the volume is way down.
Well, my computer is gone. I'm working off my laptop right now because I have a problem with it, and it's also have an input problem. So,
No, you don't have one of these?
well, that wouldn't help with a microphone anyway.
Oh, mine has a microphone.
That I don't have.
Okay, how about we convene this meeting of the Lincolnville Planning Board on Wednesday, February 24th of 2021. And I am Elizabeth Udi. This meeting is being held remotely via Zoom and can be watched live on cable channel 22 and reviewed afterwards on YouTube. How come is that? And let's see, as we mentioned before, the question I asked was, can I appoint both Bill and Jay this evening as voting members, as we have no Janice and no Scott?
I believe the answer is yes on that, but Jay is one that's familiar with the bylaws, so. Can you hear us, Jay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Just
Yeah,
barely,
barely.
but we can.
Okay. Yeah. The bylaws say that the chair will select the alternate that's present and appoint him to the chair. So if you appoint both Bill and I, that's two positions that are alternates to the planning board that are filling positions that aren't being filled. So, yeah.
Great. Then let it be so. I don't think we need a vote on that, do we, Nancy? And I do hear something, sorry. So on tonight's agenda, we have Mr. Harrison, the owner of the Duck Trap Motel, is acting as applicant tonight. He is interested in having a commercial site plan on record for the Duck Trap, the Duck Trap Motel. And he also is hoping to, well, obviously, he had applied for a permit to put a roof and screen around an existing deck. And I guess now would, Frank, do you want to do your little speech?
Just a little background. If at this point in time, if they doesn't do anything to the Duck Trap Motel to make a change or an addendum required, then there's nothing that you would do. So the trigger here, the catalyst, is going to be when the applicant makes a request to put a change to that existing site plan. And so the recommendation, I would say, is there's going to be 2 plat plans on file. One should be as it is today, excuse me, and the second one would be with the amendment on it. And that's the only one that's going to be having the 5 lines to be signed. What we're going to need from the applicant, we need documentation on file explaining what the commercial site plan currently is. And that is a base for us to have the definition of what this plat plan is all about. Then the next thing is going to be a judgment call on your part. We're going to go through, and with the amendment, then the planning board, you got an option. You can either, and remember, we have no code to define how we're supposed to do this correctly. You can either take and do a review of the standards for the change that's made and sign the plat plan according to that. Another approach that can be used is you can take, once you have this amendment in front of you, you can go through the entire review standards and see if they do meet the town's requirements. And then you can make a decision if you want to enforce that, to say that that has to be brought up to current review standards. That's a judgment call you have. At a minimum, you should go through the review for what the amendment is. That's it, and that's it. So I would say, Scott, we will need from you, we're going to need that documentation. He has paid the fee on this. I do have the abutter list, which this, if the board decided you need to use it, it's there, but I don't see why you want to have to use it. That's your call too.
Okay, so what exactly does that entail in documentation? I mean, the print is the way it has been since 1950, so.
Right, but that's what you're gonna write down, what it is. It's a motel, number of
So all
units.
I need to bring you is a piece of paper written that this is a motel, it's been here since 1950. The only change I'm going to make on the plot plan is I want to put a screened porch on the front of the office building so we can check guests in without having them come in our home.
That's it.
That's it, okay.
It's not a,
The plat as it is, though, is not the same one from 1950. So there are some changes. I don't want to use the word amendment because that plat was never on file, the one that we have with us now.
no, but what he's talking about is to have the plan as the place exists today, which he's got. That's the basic plan to begin with. That's what he's talking about. That's what his documentation is going to be addressing, because that's what's there. And so then the other plat plan is going to be the same, but showing the changes on that, which the planning board, if they approve it, will be signing.
Can I ask?
As I understand. Okay.
Go ahead, Jay.
It strikes me that we're making this a little bit complicated. Scott, what is your plan on this screen porch?
This is just so that we can check people in. Our office currently is inside our home. Okay, and due to this COVID stuff, I want to have people check in through a sliding window, and to get them out of weather, I just want to screen in the deck.
So you have an
Porch.
existing porch with a roof on it?
Yeah, I have, no, I don't have a roof on it. I want to put a roof on it.
Well, there is no roof
And
on
screen
it.
it in.
Correct. It's just an existing deck
Okay.
that he wishes to screen in and put a roof.
And screen that in. Who's going to do the work?
I am.
Is there a basic problem with you doing the work and building it and then putting in for a commercial site plan approval?
What, I don't know.
No, he's got the building permit in front of me requesting to do the work. And he's identified himself as a contractor. What's the point there?
Yeah,
Well, if he needs a building permit, give him a building permit, let him build it, and then apply for a commercial site plan approval with that already done.
You can't, wait a minute, no, that's backwards. This is whether it's documented as a documented commercial site of record, if the commercial site, and so therefore someone cannot, I can't issue a building permit for a commercial site unless it's been approved by the planning board.
Oh,
But it isn't a commercial site plan of record. And you have given him permits before for other things. So why can't he be permitted to build this front
Because-
porch?
Because the only other thing he received a permit for, he had requested a gazebo for his personal use. That was not, I did not consider that part of the duck trap motel commercial plan. So he's asking to do a change to the plan. It's up to the planning board to decide if you don't think that he needs to have approval or not. But if you decide that he does not have to go through the planning board, then this goes against his request that he'd like to be a commercial site plan of record.
I understand that. I guess my question, I think Jay's is, why can't we treat this as two separate things? The plat plan right
It is
now, yeah, I understand, but two separate things at two separate discussions. The plat plan as it is right now needs some work, very minor work. And if he were to build his front porch, if this screened-in porch, and then come back to us again with those three things addressed, I don't see any problem with just approving that as a site plan of record.
If the planning board wants to vote in that manner, my hands are tied. It's up to you. If you want to do it that way, I'll give him the building permit, but I would ask you to sign it as chair.
Sign the building permit.
can I ask one other question?
Yes,
Scott, how long have you had the motel?
7 years,
And how long did the people before you have it?
10 years.
Okay, those people that had it before you put in for a commercial site plan approval for that motel, and we reviewed it.
That is what
I remember going on the sidewalk and doing the whole process. I remember the couple that did it. We had stayed involved with the MDOT with the driveway entrance on Route 1 there. This whole process has been gone through. What happened to that permit?
I don't know,
Can I
Lois
point-
said it
can-
was there, but
Can I point out something? Elizabeth has done complete research going back on this. She'll tell you succinctly what happened.
Okay.
the permits they were allowed to do the work they wanted to do, but the application for a commercial site plan was withdrawn. And you all voted that it was not necessary for the work that they were at the time. There was a concern that it would, cause problems for the sale contract. Rickety Lane had not closed on it. And you guys were trying to get MBNA to maybe do stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry. I get my little confused at the
The
moment.
point is, it was withdrawn, Jay.
It was withdrawn. It was not a matter of it tabled for later. It was withdrawn.
Okay.
And they were actually asking for a change of use. So now that's moot because for the last as long as Scott's had it and Rickety Lane had it, has been used as a motel.
So the bottom line now is, do you want to allow them to go ahead and do the work? And it will issue the building permit, but he will not be going down as a site plan of record until the board reviews that for the general review standards.
I just think it makes more sense to review it with the building in place. I don't understand why we're going to go this whole review of it, and then have him go build a screened-in porch and then come back for an amendment to the plan, when all he has to do is just build it and come back.
And we'd be approving the amendment tonight as well.
We're approving the amendment, Jay.
If-
You'd be looking at the review standards just for the amendment. Not that it's not been, you don't let something be done before it's been reviewed.
If we look at the amendment, all we'd be reviewing in the standards is those standards that are affected by the amendment, not all of them.
Correct. I told you, the option is yours. The
Right.
board can, some of the towns will take and review the standards by what the amendment is. Others will say, before I'm going to sign that plat plan, I want to make sure that that motel currently meets the review standards and make them bring them up to those standards. That's your call, because there's nothing documented as to what we have to do.
Gotcha.
But
Right.
as you heard Scott, his intention is he would like to be documented.
That's not a
Oh.
problem. I
Yeah,
just don't know why we need to bring him back twice. That's the only
They're
thing.
not.
I don't think Frank thinks we should bring it back twice. We can do everything tonight. If we agree.
Right.
What about the porch?
We would
Okay.
be
He's-
amending.
He's putting it before you for approval. And for him to be approved, you have to see if it meets the standards. He can't build it if you say it doesn't meet the standards.
So we're going to review under the section 18, and we're doing the commercial site plan, not the subdivision ordinance, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The agenda says subdivision ordinance. That's the only reason I'm saying.
Oh, does it?
Well, we know it's not a subdivision. If he's been doing that on the side, he
I
didn't get a permit.
I just wanted to double check, that's all.
Oh,
So
oh.
we're gonna do a full review of a commercial site, approve it as a commercial site, then he's gonna put an amendment on that, and we're gonna review that by just the standards that affect that amendment.
Jay, you could do it one of three ways. You've just added a third way. I didn't say you should review the standards before you look at the amendment. It's the other way around. Review the amendment to see if it meets the general review standards. That's where you start. And then you have to decide, do we want to make sure it meets all the review standards after the amendment's been approved?
I'm confused.
It's really simple.
What,
If you want to let him, you're saying what I'm hearing, that you don't think it needs to be approved by the planning board to make the change. Is that what I heard?
the change as in the addition of the screened-in porch?
Right. Because you're telling me to issue him the building permit, then come back later for review.
Of a commercial site plan.
Whichever way you want to go
For a commercial site plan review.
for a complete site plan.
If he
Or
comes
do it
back,
tonight.
if he comes back for a review of a commercial site plan for his entire motel, it will include the screened-in porch.
Yes, if I get to build it.
Yeah, go ahead. If you go ahead and build it, and then come back with a commercial site plan form, says you want your site approved for commercial use, it'll include that porch.
It's your call, guys.
To me, the advantage of doing it that way would be that Scott could make a couple other changes on this plat that he has submitted that has a couple issues that need to be addressed. And they're easy things to address, but they do need to be done before I would sign it. And I think before the rest would want to sign it. So he'd have to come back anyway. So why not let him build his porch with a permit from Frank? And then we do one more meeting where everything is already in order. But that's just my opinion, and I'm really new at this. So I
I think that's what I said, but
Yeah.
And I,
One
I
of the
say,
issues that,
I say on a commercial site plan, how can the planning board say to an applicant that can come before the board to make an amendment that you guys go ahead and do it because we're not happy with the plan the way it is now?
Yeah, I mean, what happens if the board says no on that second review?
And he has
I,
to take it down.
Then you'd have to take it down, yeah.
Exactly.
says no to what?
If
To the
board-
screen
It does not
porch?
approve.
What
No,
Bill William is saying, if he comes back after he's built the deck on there, and then he comes before the board, and I got new members on the board, they're gonna say, well, why did you do that? We didn't approve it, and we don't approve it.
I guess,
That's what Bill just said. That's the same thing I'm
I
saying.
understand. So I am someone who knows the ordinances.
But there's
Every
no
single
ordinance
thing
on
that-
this.
I understand that. Every single thing that any commercial property in Lincolnville has done as a grandfathered property, because we know that at least 70% of those commercial properties do not have commercial site plans, because when did that start? 2000 something. Every time they ask for a permit, they're not asking for the board's approval. They're asking for a permit from you. So I guess my
They
question
have
is, why
to
can't
ask
we?
the board. Because a commercial site plan, a grandfathered, whatever terminology you want to use it, as long as it keeps functioning as it is, they don't have to be documented or approved. As soon as they do anything that changes that commercial site, now they have to come before the planning board.
So Rick and Elaine put in a well and a,
Not a well
and a
doesn't,
sign. Well, the
well-
sign, they got a permit. Okay,
facility, utilities do not count.
okay.
The sign, they would need to have gotten a permit.
But not through us, not through the planning board.
The code officer could have issued the building permit because we have a sign
Sign
ordinance
permit.
anyway.
I,
But
I
as soon
thought,
as you change an exist,
I thought the porch already existed and all he was doing was screening it in and putting a roof on it. I'm not too sure how that changes water flow. Anything we'd be reviewing anyway. It would seem to me anyway, that I would agree with Jay and Elizabeth that we let him put that addition on, come back, do a full site plan review, and I think it's fairly simple, my opinion.
Scott,
so
you're
if
not
I put it
gonna,
on,
okay, go ahead.
if I put it on, I can come back and have it reviewed as it is and just have it signed by the board so that I have a commercial site plan on file with the board.
they'd have to review everything, Scott.
That would be a full commercial site plan review,
Yeah.
Not just that, everything.
right?
What
Which
do you
you
mean?
want
everything?
anyway, if I'm not mistaken.
It is what he wants, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so that includes the water flows and the signage and.
All of that's on
all-
his plat C1.
All of it's already on there.
Yeah, and many of the standards will be answered with as is or testament
Or-
to the quality, et cetera. He's got things pretty well put together. You've read what he has. There are just a couple things here and there that could use some clarifying.
And I guess I'd make a motion that we give them a building permit and then review the whole thing later.
Can I ask a question? This is
Certainly.
Lisa, Scott's
My
husband,
wife.
Scott's wife, and I'm also an owner of the Duck Trap Motel.
Yeah.
Now, the lady two down from me said there's some problems,
Some issues to be addressed
some
with
issues
the
to be
plan. So
addressed.
what are they?
Oh, you're talking
Well,
about me? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jay.
Sorry.
I will tell you that the review that we did of that motel, when we did it for commercial site plan approval, the one problem that we had the most trouble with was that entrance to Route 1, that driveway entrance you have that comes out on Route 1. And that had to do with the site distances from that driveway. And as I
Well-
understand it, The owners at that time went to the state and had the state come out and measure the site, the distances to the top of that hill. And they said that it was okay, which I believe got a driveway or an entrance permit issued. And then they came back with that. I'm not
Yeah.
quite
At
sure.
this time, that is an
But
exit
the only
only.
issue we had was that driveway on Route 1.
Yeah. Well, that driveway on Route 1 is an exit only.
Okay,
Our entrance is off Whitney Road.
right. I think that's because of the review that we did and the problem we had.
Yeah.
The state said it was okay for a one-way operation because the site distance up to the top of the hill there was just on the margin, and they issued a permit for it. So yeah, if you have that permit or something from the state that's a legal exit-only driveway, you shouldn't have any problem.
No, we don't have anything from the state.
Yeah, Rick never gave us any of the paperwork for that. So would the state have it, or would Frank have it on file down there at the office?
Maybe.
The standards are in the ordinance. I would check that. And if it needs to be specifically checked by a state person with a permit issue, then I guess you need to have them look at that. But
Okay.
I think in the,
we're going to
go
review
ahead.
that portion of the standards in the ordinance. We're going to have to, deal with that. So I'm just letting you know that that was the problem last time when we did this review.
Okay.
Were there other issues?
No.
So I
No,
could
and
head this off just by checking it.
yes, and there, it might be in, Frank, in the, map 17, lot 7 binder. They were waiting for a fire marshal report, and the MDOT report was supposed to come in. So that old one may actually be there.
If it's not there, they can request a new one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that was a question for Jay and Frank. If you do a complete site review, that would, some of these things have to be freshly looked at with fresh eyes, because I'd hate for Scott to have to go through the expense of that. We're not talking about someone having to come out and inspect everything, including roads and parking and.
This is a judgment call on the part of the planning board. You
Okay.
go either way. You could say, well, we're going to review just the amendment and then everything is documented. Or you can say, we're going to hold their feet to the fire and they're going to have to bring everything up to standard by the review standards. So you have to make that call.
Okay.
Well, he's
So
asking
can I
you.
request a waiver?
You can request it, but doesn't mean they can grant it.
The waivers are for submission requirements, not standards.
Okay.
Can't
Right.
waive the standards. But I would check the standards, and see if that complies, that driveway, since it's an exit only driveway. If it complies, it complies. There's nothing we can say about it if it does.
Okay.
Is it possible that these are,
As far as I know, nothing's changed in our standards. And if the state hasn't changed anything in their site distances, then it should be fine.
Bill?
yeah, is it possible that, as I think you suggested, that this should be treated as essentially two separate issues? One is the issue of the screen and porch that could be dealt with tonight. The screen and porch could then be installed based upon an approved plan.
No.
And then come back after that's all been done and do the comprehensive review.
The,
Yeah.
if we
it
go a route
bothers me.
similar to that, go ahead.
It bothers me that we would be, it sort of sounds almost like a wink, wink, nod, nod approval that of the screened in porch modifications. I mean, he would be doing that on an unapproved basis, and that
No.
Correct.
sounds
Right on, Bill.
That would concern me, because if I put it up, I dang sure don't want to take it down.
yeah. Well, fortunately, it's not. If it were something really valuable, you could be hanging in the breeze.
Well, it's very simple. All we do is tonight start a commercial site plan review of this application. We go through all the standards and approve it.
Why do you,
Once it's approved, he goes and builds the porch and comes back and asks for an amendment. That's easy.
That sounds reasonable.
Well, why can't you complete the review tonight where it's just an amendment on that one thing that has to be reviewed?
Oh, wait a minute now. You're trying to make his request to put a porch on an amendment?
That's what Frank has been trying to say. To
Amendment-
me, it
an
seems a
amendment
little
to what?
backwards, but that's where he's been going with this.
An amendment to what?
Exactly. We have to do the plan first and then
Jay,
amendment.
You can
To allow
call
him-
this, you can call this a 2.1.1, that's fine, but the applicant is saying, I want to be reviewed.
He wants a, yeah,
What I just said. We do a complete review. He builds the porch, comes back with an amendment request to that approved plan.
Okay, so you're saying to begin with, the plan is to do a complete review.
Correct.
That's fine, but
Okay,
he's not ready for that.
Oh, okay. Well, when he's ready for that, then we do that. Then he builds his porch. Then he comes back and requests an amendment to the approved plan. And we deal with that.
is
Yeah.
he ready?
The standards in the ordinance
So-
that apply to this porch.
what do I need to be ready for that?
Is he ready with what he submitted to call this a preliminary preview? Where we can give him our input and tell him where things need to be tweaked. Is that not what you normally do with an application?
Yes, that's a pre-application meeting.
Right.
And this could be considered a pre-application meeting.
Does that put a delay on him getting his porch started? Or are you trying to wait for warmer weather?
Well, it's not like I'm gonna build it in the ice and snow. So I've got the time to wait in order to get it, to get the permit for the amendment, to the amendment to the commercial plan. So if we go ahead and make this a meeting, then I'll just need to know what I need to do to bring it up to standard.
It may already be up to standard.
I think
You won't know.
it is.
You won't know till they review you, Scott.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what? You want to get started? Are we going to look at this as a pre-application meeting and so we go over the submission requirements?
Is Frank classified it?
You should be, I thought you said you're going to review the standards.
Yeah, have you classified
You don't need to review submissions.
Have you
Those are there. Of
Have you classified it, major or minor?
course, it's a major.
Okay, so we're not reviewing the submissions.
No.
Is what
you should-
Frank
you-
is saying.
You go to the standard. No other town in a situation like this goes through the submissions. It's the standards that have to be met.
Okay. In that case, I have to be honest and let somebody tell me where what the next step is. We're starting with 11, 12, and 13?
I'm totally confused here.
Yeah, so am I.
I'm totally confused.
It's- What do you want to accomplish tonight?
I want to review the application by the ordinance.
Okay, so what are you going to review?
So we have had a pre-application meeting. And now we have to go through the submission requirements to find the application complete. And when we find it complete, then we start the review process.
Okay, I don't agree, so I'm going to back off. So
What is it you don't agree with, Frank?
I don't agree that this should be a pre-application meeting. Because a pre-application meeting is to come to the board, say, this is what we're planning to do. You see any problem with doing this project? Okay, that's a pre-application, a segue to a major project. This
Right.
is not a segue, okay? And the submissions are things that have already been done, septic systems, lighting, so on and so forth. But if that's what the way you want to approach it, rather than let this thing be stalemated, go ahead so we get it moving.
If we wasn't there an option brought up by someone that we could review it as is? And we wouldn't necessarily be going through each of the standards?
You can review it as is. You're not going to vote on it. You're not going to sign a plat plan. That's fine. But you still have the decision, how are you going to proceed to make it documented?
Mhm.
And that, the simple step would be to review the standards for what he's changing, which is next to nothing.
Right.
Agreed.
And when we're done doing that, Duck Trap Motel has an approved commercial site plan?
You can do it that way, yes. I only said some towns, not all of them, would say, we're going to really be tough on this and say, now we want you to make sure you satisfy all the review standards, and they might go backwards. But I'm saying there's no reason you have to do that with this particular. It's a judgment call on your part. This is so simple. All you have to do is review what he's asking to do and vote on that and sign that plat plan.
But then he has approval for a porch.
That's how he gets his commercial site plan document.
Well, that's
He does
approving
not,
his porch.
if he's not making a change to his site, then you can't make him a commercial site plan of record.
He doesn't have.
Because nothing has changed. It's grandfathered, so there's no, would you sign a plat plan? That's something of record? Without any change to it? You're making this too complex. It's simple.
It sounds so simple to you, Frank, and it is not simple to me. And I don't even have any experience at this. So.
Well, this is almost deja vu when we did the Lincolnville motel. I had to go back to the town attorney, come back and said, and she told us to do what we said we should have done. So that's your option. If you don't know what to do tonight and you want to take the short-term way to do it, I'll get in touch with the town attorney again and she'll tell you what to do. But I'm telling you what the towns around have been doing. It's very simple. You review the standard for what is the amendment. And now you have a plat plan you can sign.
And if it goes to the town attorney, you can almost bet your dippy that she wants to do a full review, and I don't want to see that happen.
So specifically, which standard are you referring to, Frank?
That's what the board would do to say you're going to skim through the standards. Is he affecting lighting? Is it affecting parking? So
No.
this is simple. You're going to come down to maybe it doesn't affect any of the standards, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
What are we working from?
Working from his submission, he submitted an application for an amendment to a site plan.
I get it. I'm done.
See, I don't see it that way. It doesn't say that. It says it's a submission for application for a site plan review. And that's where I'm confused. I don't see why this is an amendment.
Because
It's not, there's nothing to amend.
Nothing to amend.
I agree.
I don't understand what we're doing. He does not have an approved commercial site plan.
What am I hearing? Who's got some noise going on in the background?
No.
Not
Okay.
me.
The lady down at the beach that had the novelty store came to the planning board and wanted to put a counter in the back of the store and serve coffee. we said, no, you can't do that. You got to go through a complete commercial site plan review for that building because you don't have an approved commercial site. I don't see the difference.
I think they can hear that. Okay, sorry.
Kim, you want to let her out?
Maybe I'm confused.
That's okay, we all are.
I thought, this is my thought. I thought that since this motel has been here since 1950, we're asking you to, okay a commercial site plan that was done up before we ever bought the place.
That was withdrawn.
But
And then we're asking to build a screened-in porch and have you sign, okay, the new site plan with the screened-in porch on it.
They never had a commercial site.
That's what I'm getting at is since, Frank, tell me if I'm wrong. Since we've been grandfathered in, can't you just sign the commercial plot plan for before we put on the porch?
no, because you'll be asking the board to sign something that they didn't know was meeting the standards. It would be putting the board in a position where.
So in other words, you could come here and say, we bought this place 7 years ago. Now you've got to stop doing whatever it is you're doing there because your site isn't right.
No.
No,
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 Well,
if nothing is classified, excuse me, as a change to your site plan, then, your business as usual, then nobody can tell you to change what you're doing. But
so
if you're
then
coming
I
bef-
guess what I'm asking is, since we have a site plan and we haven't changed anything, then why can't the board sign the site plan the way it is without any changes so that we now have a commercial site plan?
Because Scott would like to have a documented commercial site plan, but before the board will entertain that, you have to be making a change that the board has to approve. And now the board is saying this is so insignificant, they don't even think it needs to be reviewed. And so they're in a position where saying, you don't have to go before the board for this. If you
So-
don't, then they're not
You're
gonna
saying-
do it.
Frank, you're saying, and Jay can back this up, that if a business were to come and say, there is no site plan of record and I'd like there to be one, but they're not wanting to make any changes, then you would not be able to honor that?
Yes, we would, but we're not, we're not approving anything. It's what exists, that whatever they put together. In other words, you're saying to them, show us who you are. So they're gonna
Exactly.
go out, they're not gonna have to do latitude and longitude. They're gonna say this line is this long, this line is that long.
And you wouldn't approve that as a commercial
You're
site
not
plan?
you're,
I don't understand what you're saying, Frank. Now stop. If Joe Blow Motel has been built since 1950 and they haven't done a thing, can they not have an engineer make up a plat, bring it to the board and ask that it be a site plan of record? If it meets all of the specifications on this one plat, would they not approve it because there's no change being requested? I mean, that's what you're saying.
the towns do not bother an existing site. And they're not gonna, for you to approve an existing site, and Jay was getting there and saying, you gotta start with a pre-application. If you start with a pre-application, go through submissions, and then the review, then I'll sign your plat plan. But it's gotta meet the review standards when you're doing it.
So we
Well,
think
how
that
would
the
I-
plat in itself would not
No,
be able to be considered
no, you'd
an
have,
official site plan.
what you're talking about, what Jay was talking about, you could take this back to the pre-application stage and approve it all the way through, submissions and all. But yeah, you know it's there. You've measured it, meets the standards, sign it.
Okay.
But if somebody gives you a plat plan and say, this is who we are, they haven't gone through the testing to see, does it meet the standards?
Mhm.
Okay.
Jay said this place went through all the testing and they just withdrew their request to have it signed.
Yes.
So
So your risk is minimal then.
And this plat that you have submitted is the plat from 2004 that they used. You have
Yeah.
penciled in your little deck,
yeah,
and there are a couple of other things on here that you would have to unpencil, but otherwise, nothing seems to have changed. But
nothing has changed. And the only
Eliz-
pencil was the one.
go
on
ahead,
the,
Frank. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Scott, and in your digging through the files, did you find that it was documented that all the general review standards were met and approved by the board?
No.
Okay, then that's the end of that.
It was submission requirements.
Right. Okay.
And they
so-
went in a lot of detail and discussion about the road and the contours and all, but they never got to the stage of going through every standard.
So now you're back to what does the board want to do? Do you want to say, you want to issue him a building permit and have him come back? Start all over again? What do you want?
I don't want a chance having to tear it down.
Oh,
So
I don't
if
think
I don't
that's an
need
Well,
this
you
commercial
probably-
site plan, why can't I just get a building permit?
That's what they're saying, they would let you do, but then would be coming back later to get approved as a commercial site plan. And
What
the
if I
chances
never
that-
come back?
Scott, what you're doing, the chances of you having to take it down are slim to none. Okay, but that's
You
an
know what?
example.
I don't like slim to none. I don't want a building permit. I want a commercial site plan. Then I want a building permit.
I'm on your
You
side.
know what? I spent 35 years in insurance. I saw slim to nil hurt people so many times.
Bill is saying the
I'm
same
not
thing
willing to
about the
take a
correction.
chance.
You're saying the same thing, Frank is.
And Bill, you're saying the same thing, I believe, right?
Yes.
So the bottom line is, you can't give them a building permit on a commercial plan unless the planning board says it's approved.
Okay. And you can accept the plot plan as it is.
Correct.
Frank, can you answer a question for me?
Probably not.
Well, let's give it a try. Under section 2 of the ordinance.
Is
Section
this
2.1
2.1.1?
No, section 2.1.
I'm open to it.
What item under section 2.1 triggers commercial site plan review in this instance?
This instance.
Yeah.
Okay,
His
Jay,
application.
back up.
Okay.
Back up to 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Listen to the logic. If someone is changing a commercial site, they need approval of the planning board to be able to do it. The planning board has to measure, does this have any impact, a negative impact on any review standards? If it doesn't, then you can say, here's your building. I don't care what it says in the ordinance. That's the logic of your plan. This is what a planning board is here for, to make sure that somebody doesn't do something that's in violation of what the comp plan says. Do not give somebody approval to build something without reviewing it. That's what you guys are saying, is you go do it and then come back and tell us about it. That's like somebody coming to me and say, look, I just built a house that's right beside the water. I'd like you to prove it.
Well, we know too, Scott has the hotel on the market, the motel on the market, and he wants this site plan because he thinks that will help the
wants it.
future owners. Yeah.
But that's what he said up front.
Regardless of the porch, of the screened in porch, he wants a commercial site plan on record.
if you take and tell him to go build the porch and he gets a buyer that comes in, the buyer says, now, have anything outstanding on this? Well, yeah, we're waiting for the planning board to approve this porch we put in place. Do you think that's going to help the sale? I
I'm
don't
on your
think so.
side.
If a neighbor of this motel were to object to the fact, and I'm just using this as an example, if a neighbor of the motel were to object to the fact that the owner of the motel built a porch, and he did it under an approval that was not followed by the Lincolnville commercial site plan ordinance, how would the court rule?
They
What was
would
the last
rule
one?
against us.
That's right.
I can guarantee it.
That's right. So if we don't review an application for a commercial site plan approval by the ordinance, it's not an approved commercial site plan under the.
We all agree with that.
Sorry?
Yeah,
We
we
all
all
agree with
agree.
Well, if we agree to that, what are we talking about then? I don't understand grandfather. I don't understand, don't worry about the submission requirements, just go to the, I don't understand any of that because none of that goes by the ordinance. A lawyer would pick this apart and say, wait a minute, you did a full review of this commercial site plan and you approved it and he went ahead, but you didn't ask for any submission requirements. And the judge is going to say, remand it back to the planning board. They need to do it over again and they need to do it right and they need to do it by the ordinance. That's
Okay.
what the judge.
You're going back to what you said in the beginning. You want them to start with a pre-application. You want them to go
The
through.
ordinance
Correct.
says, the ordinance says step 1, pre-application meeting. Step 2,
Okay.
submission requirements. Step 3, review by the standards. That's what the ordinance says.
Is that your motion?
I don't know why I have
That's
to
a good point.
do it the way it's supposed to be done.
Is that your motion?
Is there absolute, I think I know the answer to this. Is there absolutely no provision in the ordinance for a minor modification versus a modification that's considered substantial enough to trigger a full review?
So that's why I asked Frank the question under 2.1, show me which one triggers review of this application under commercial site plan. Which one of those items triggers review for a comprehensive?
None, but what triggers the review is Scott wants it. He wants a commercial site plan on record.
No, nobody's answering my question. So.
Well,
Jay. The
No,
focus is.
it
Look,
is not
I think
there. You're right, Jay. It's not there.
Right.
There's
Every
nothing
one of-
specific.
Every one of us on this Zoom agree that what he's doing is so minute. The planning board would say, why are you here? If he came before us for approval on it, but he's not. He's coming before us saying, I want you to review this so that I can have a documented commercial site plan.
Then we got to review it.
Okay. All right.
Why
So
can't
we got one
start
thing
with
established.
What we have,
He-
the submission.
He doesn't have to do it, but he wants to do it. So how do you want to do it?
The right way by the ordinance.
Okay. So you want to start with pre-application.
We've already done that.
Okay. So that's your motion.
Why do I need to make a motion to go by procedure?
Well, the board has to agree with you.
I'm done. I'll let the
So
board take that up.
assuming there's no motion and we consider that a pre-application has been done, where are we starting tonight? Are we starting tonight with section 10 submission requirements?
Is that Elizabeth?
Yes.
Your volume's way down.
Down to everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're way down in volume.
Is that better? I
Nope.
think I might have played with my buttons. Is that any better?
Not really.
We can hear you though.
Okay, sorry. Are we starting then with submission requirements this
You bet.
evening?
Yes, I would say.
Okay. I feel very alone and lost. Thank you, Frank, for your input. You help a lot. All right. So if we're starting with submission requirements, are we voting on each one, or do we just go through and see that It meets what we're looking
don't-
for,
You-
and if
you
he
don't
has
vo-
to add.
You just go
vote.
through the seat. You don't have to vote for it. Go through the whole thing to make sure it's there. If it's not there, then it's something that they have to provide before they can go into the next phase of viewing the standards.
Okay. So on the fully executed signed copy of an application and site plan review, we have a submission. I don't know what list provided means. Scott, do you have yours in front of you that you submitted?
The list provided was the
The butter,
butters list.
the butters
Okay.
list. I have the,
The check, evidence of payment, Frank has that, the 9 copies of
Yeah.
written materials.
well, wait a minute. What I
All
have,
that.
the $50 is if it was an amendment. So it won't be $50 now. It's gonna be different, and I'll follow up on that tomorrow.
I just
Okay.
paid you $200.
We just dropped off a check for $200.
Okay, then you're covered.
The packets were provided. The waiver of submissions, he had none. General information, property owner's name, address, phone number, et cetera. Obviously, we have that on his application. The location of all required setbacks and buffers is on the plat C1. Names and addresses of the abutters were submitted to Frank. The names and addresses of all consultants is on the plat from the 2004, and otherwise Scott is doing the work right now himself. And if anybody has questions or wants to jump in, please do. A sketch map showing general location of the site within the municipality upon reduction, blah, blah, blah. Yes, then we have a C1 plat for that.
Have we established that there's been no changes to the property since this plat plan was developed?
We have not discussed that, and there has, on the plat as it is right now for us, C1, there is where the signs are. It states proposed site of new signs, and that needs to be changed to existing signs. And whether or not you guys are up for, like, would it be all right if Scott circled that, wrote existing, made a note, signed it and dated it, or does he need a new plat
No.
created?
I didn't date it.
Okay. The other thing is he penciled in the existing deck on the front of the house that he wants to now screen in. I think he needs to circle that as well. Make a note that he attests that it was he who penciled that in and sign and date that.
If that wasn't on the 2004 plat, when was that installed?
It was not. He penciled it in himself. Scott did, like last week.
I'm hearing the deck is there now.
No. Oh, yes. Good point.
Deck's been there since we bought the place.
Why isn't it on the plat plan?
Damn if I know. None of the decks or anything are on there.
So they may have been put on by Rickety Lane after
They have.
2004.
Who
Is that
knows?
a permit?
Or MBNA.
Or NVNA put them on there. Who knows?
Find them.
If MBNA did, they'd be on this plat. This one was made during the transition.
So the platform exists. He's simply going to put a roof over it, and a screen around it. So what we're looking at on the plat plan is already in existence.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I guess my concern though is that anybody could take a pencil and put things on here. And I just felt I'd feel more secure if he were to sign it.
I'll come by and sign and date it off.
Okay. The other thing not on this plat is a gazebo that I can see.
It was never built.
Oh, okay.
The money was never there to build it.
Okay. Anything else you can think of, Scott, that is not the same? That's all I saw was the
No,
sign
that's
and-
it. The rest of it is the same as shown.
Okay. Where did we go? Names, sketch map, the boundaries, all contiguous under total or partial. This is F. And he shows that's on the plat. Tax map and lot number he's provided. The copy of the deed, I did pull a copy. Had you pulled any copies, Scott?
No, I didn't know that I needed one until you just said. I pulled the copy.
Well, you put on there that it's on file, but
Yeah, that's.
so
that's
I
what
did pull one copy.
Okay.
Name and registration number, seal person who prepared the plan, that's on there. Evidence of applicant's technical and financial ability. Obviously, you've been there a long time. I don't know, is that something that we would need official paperwork for?
Well,
Is
he
it
owns,
like-
he
is-
owns the motel, so he has the equity of the motel. So he has the financial capability because he could sell a motel if he had to pay for the porch.
Does he know anything about a hammer?
Oh, man.
If you want a copy of our checking account, I'll give it to you.
But I'll back you up.
Thanks.
10.3, district classification. Scott has put here not applicable property. However, let's see, does it?
Now, some of those I may have answered them wrong, but I answered them in respect to the deck, not in respect to the commercial site plan.
I think you're
So if
only in
there's
one
something I need to
district.
change,
You're in the-
just
I,
let me know.
you're in the general development. I put that on your building permit for you.
Okay,
And it's not in two different districts.
districts, no.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Bearings of all property lines of the property to be developed, and the source of the information is there's no new development, that's not applicable. Anyway, location and size of any existing sewer, water mains, culverts, etc. And these are all shown on the plat. Location, names, and present widths of existing public or private streets and rights of way on C1. We do not have dimensions of ground floor elevations of all existing buildings. Are these considered elevations on the plat? It's the only plat we got was C1.
Yeah, that's all I have. What else do I need?
Well, that would be a ground floor elevation, what's shown on the plat, because it's a footprint.
Okay, so that's all.
Yeah.
All right, great. So that one's good for on C1. Existing driveways, parking, loading areas, etc. are on C1. The location of intersecting roads and driveways within 200 feet of the site are all on C1. The location of open drainage courses, wetlands, stone walls, graveyards, trees, etc. Again, C1 demonstrates these as of 2004. We assume.
I haven't buried anybody lately.
Or chopped any trees down.
No,
Let's see, direction of existing surface water drainage across the site. It has little arrows for that on C1. Location of nearest fire hydrant and protection, unless anything's changed in the last 17 years, that should be on C1.
I see one.
Location, front view, dimensions of lighting and of existing and proposed signs. You did put not applicable, but the sign that you have, which was put after 2004, obviously is applicable. And that's where you would just have to change proposed sign location to existing sign location.
Okay, I'll just come by the office and sign that.
10.4, proposed development activity. Evidence of adequacy of proposed use. I think you've been using it that way for long enough. We can trust that that's okay.
Okay.
Let's see, that was B. Nope, B, direction of proposed surface water drainage, existing established commercial use, no development proposed, not it is applicable, obviously, but as is. Provisions for handling all solid waste, including hazardous and special waste. Guess we assume that it as is, and how do you word that? Does anybody have suggestions? Don't like not applicable there.
Well, he didn't put you got a dumpster or something on the site?
Nope, no dumpster.
Okay.
So you don't need a collection or storage facility because you're a motel. So you handle it the normal way a motel would with garbage and trash, and you have somebody pick it up and take it away, correct?
Yeah, I do it.
Mhm.
So that's provisions for handling solid waste.
Okay.
Okay.
So it goes to the transportation.
Yeah,
Location, dimensions, materials to be used in the construction of proposed driveway. It's no new construction to be considered there, so. Proposed landscaping and buffering, nothing is to change. Everything is as
Nope.
is.
yeah.
Location, dimensions of ground floor elevation of all proposed buildings and expansion. There,
He's not proposing anything on the site.
except for his, well, yeah, his little screened in porch, huh?
Right, yeah.
And he has penciled that in on his drawing. Location, front view, materials, dimensions of proposed signs together with method for securing them. We have an existing sign, so we don't need to worry about that. It's on C1. Exterior lighting also is on C1. Utilities are on C1. General description of use or activity. We have an existing motel that I think most all of us can attest to because we drive by it all the time. An estimate of peak hour and daily traffic to be generated. There should be no change to that
No, there's
since
no change.
in the last 17 years. So,
Yeah.
Stormwater calculations, existing, I would say. I'm sure there are fancy ways to word that. Additional information for major projects, applications, and there are none. Existing proposed topography of the site at 2-foot contour levels. I don't know what those contour levels are, but C1
There's
has them.
numbers in the lines on the print.
Mhm.
You'll see them.
You're pretty close. But yeah, they're 1 foot.
1 foot.
Yeah.
Engineering study to determine drainage requirements based on 50-year and 24-hour storm frequencies. As it's not a new development, I guess that wouldn't be required. Groundwater analysis. They determined in 2004 that the motel didn't use more than 2,000 gallons per day. And for some reason, this was not going to be something that had to be addressed or a study made.
I would be extremely shocked if we used that much water.
The construction drawings for the street, sanitary sewers, water, and storm drainage systems designed and prepared by a professional engineer. That would be C1, right? It's all there.
All existing.
A traffic impact analysis. Again, there's no change in traffic.
No,
The location of pedestrian ways, lots, easements. None. A copy of covenants or deed restrictions, if any, as are intended to cover or all or part of the tract. Does that include that right of way, Frank?
Yes,
For this, so we should have a copy of that on file
yes.
for the septic field for your neighbor.
yeah,
Do you have a copy of that, Scott?
That's
Or
what they
just-
personally,
should-
no, but
That'll
it's
be in
on
the, deed.
file.
That'll be in the deed, Elizabeth.
Okay,
It'll be in both deeds.
okay,
It'll be in
thank
their
you.
deed as well as the person at the septic system.
Written offers of dedication conveyance to the municipality and in the form of blah, blah, blah. None. If the development is a condominium, not applicable, and no homeowners association. So all you experts, what next? Frank is keeping his lips sealed. So now do we, what do we do? Do we entertain a motion that this is, the submission requirements are met
Yes.
with,
So moved.
I would say,
Second.
however, there are a couple of things that we did discuss. Scott coming in to
I
make
need
a
to
couple of
come in
changes to the
and sign
plat.
that, And I will do that tomorrow morning.
Does everything else seem to please everyone?
Let's do it.
So at this point, if we say all those in favor of accepting the submission requirements,
Contingent upon the changes that need to be penciled in tomorrow.
okay.
You need a second.
We did have a second, didn't we?
No.
Dick seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry,
did.
Dick. I wasn't looking at you.
So all those in favor of accepting these submissions for the application of a commercial site plan?
Four.
Great.
Four. Bill 2, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Okay. So now what is the next step? A full review?
Want to do that tonight?
No.
I didn't think so. The answer is yes, a full review, and that should be rescheduled for the next planning board meeting.
And when
And-
would that next board meeting be? In 2 weeks?
It'd be the second Wednesday
March
of
10th?
March.
March
March.
10th.
March
Yeah,
10th.
I should mention one more thing.
Yes, please.
Are we going to use the section in the lower right-hand corner of the plat plan for a signature block?
You have two places on there. If there's one on the other side of the map, it says approved by the town of Lincolnville Planning
Okay.
Board.
All right, so it's already on there, then, all right.
So everyone else are you okay with a couple of those places being marked and signed by Scott and using the plat as is with those
I think we just
signatures?
Yes.
Okay. So he doesn't have to pay hundreds of dollars to have this remade.
Thank God, I don't have it.
In the
I have to
motel
borrow it
business,
from
you
Jay.
Just one thought, and that is that perhaps the minutes of this meeting should very clearly say that the reason that a comprehensive review is taking place is because the owner wanted it, rather than that the board required it. As the towns that surround Lincolnville, or everybody's casting around trying to figure out how to handle this kind of a situation. As citizens look at what we're doing, it should be clear that we didn't require the board didn't require all of this just to put in some screens in a porch.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Well, we did
At
it on
least
the
they'll-
request of the applicant.
Exactly.
That's
And
what
that's
triggered
what
it with
Bill's
the
saying is,
request.
yeah.
That we're
applicant
doing this
requested
at
that
the
he wanted it.
request of the applicant, not
Right.
because the planning board is requiring it.
Correct.
The implication being that the planning board would be taking the position that an existing structure, no matter how tiny the modification that is done to it, requires a whole site comprehensive review.
Only if that item is covered by 2.1, Bill.
Right.
That's why I kept referring back to 2.1, because those are the triggers that have the planning board go through an application for commercial site. If anything under 2.1 is there, and Frank uses that all the time. That's why we don't use 2.1.1, because the applications always are triggered by something in 2.1. So if there's anything there in 2.1 that says we have to go ahead and do a review under the ordinance, then we start the complete full review under the ordinance. That's what
Do you
the
think
ordinance
that
requires.
this application has triggered a review under?
That was my question. I never got an
No,
answer.
Jay, this is not, this would definitely be a 2.1.1. You almost had it. Almost
Yeah,
had it.
we almost
did
did
not-
because you're
This
right.
did not trigger this. And this is what Bill is saying.
I'm
That's right,
saying
it
that
didn't.
we're doing this, the board is taking this comprehensive review at the request of the applicant, not because the board feels that it's a legal requirement to do so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Can I
And then-
ask a question? Do we need a commercial site plan?
Best,
You asked for one.
you asked for what?
But I'm asking, do we need one?
No.
I'll ask you,
Any reason?
Do you want one?
do you want one?
I think what she's saying is in order to sell a property, do they need a commercial site plan if it's a commercial sale?
It's subjective.
That'd be up to the
Maybe.
buyer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Ask a
So,
real
yeah.
estate agent.
If the
Well, we
buyer asks
bought it
for it,
without one.
if the buyer asks for it, you may or may not go ahead and do it. Your choice.
You have a
So-
trump card if you have it, Scott.
Yeah. That's the thing. If we've got it, we're covered.
So what happens now?
At this point, it looks like we're going to wait till March 10th to go through all of the standards and review. Or do we get to use planning board muscle and decide which standards are applicable and only have to review those?
No, we're doing a review of an application for commercial site. We go through all the standards.
Every single one. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise you don't come out with an approved commercial site.
Okay.
And what are the standards?
They're in the ordinance and Scott has a copy of them.
Scott will show you after we get off.
I'll show you.
Question, what happens if it doesn't meet one of the standards? He doesn't get a commercial site plan, but what happens then?
Well, that's what I said in the beginning. The board has to decide, are you going to make them bring it up to standards?
Yes.
Some towns
Well, if
do.
you do, we
some
don't
don't.
have any money, so we'll just walk into the bank and hand them the keys,
Is it
and then
actual-
it'll be their problem.
My suggestion would be that you look at the ordinance, go through the standards. If there's any questions, ask Frank if his opinion is that it meets that standard. If it does, then you won't have a problem. If it doesn't, then I would recommend you look at that problem and fix it and correct it to the standard and then bring in the full application for us to review.
You could get yourself in a corner is what it amounts to, because let's say you do have one that does not meet the standards and you decided you don't want to go through to get a documented site plan. And then during the sale for disclosure, you have to point out the fact that
That you made that
something
discovery.
you've raised a flag that says we have a problem.
Apparently, that's what happened to the people before you, Scott. They withdrew their application because something was causing a problem with the planning board.
It actually was the road.
Yeah,
I
figured.
MDOT had suggested they close that exit, but we're willing to tell them that if they used it as a one-way that was acceptable for some time, to expand the entrance from Whitney to accommodate two-way traffic would only have needed a few more feet of width, but the cost in that was, it's not that it was prohibitive, it was just the idea that there was going to have to be mediation with MBNA and all, and it just made it complicated. They decided
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
to pull out. But everything else looked good, I think, pretty much, so.
So all I need to do is get a copy of MDOT's permission to use that as one way. And we've been using it one way the whole time we owned it. And that's what Rick and Elaine said they had to do, was use it one way.
Yeah. And they had suggested in those meetings that it be used one way southbound only, so that no traffic was
Yeah.
trying to cross. But that was never made official, apparently.
Yeah.
If there is a permit, it should still be in existence.
If it's not, Scott, you could call MDOT and have them give you a recertification on it.
Yeah.
I'll give you
Okay.
the number tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
So we will be meeting again March 10th to go over all of the standards. And if between now and then, Scott, you change your mind, you'll let us know.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to change my mind, though.
I am.
Sleep
And
well,
so
Scott.
the next step for Scott is he has to still wait till after March 10th to get the amendment to start his porch, correct?
Well,
Right. And to buy the,
yeah, I'm just not I'm not gonna start it, in March anyways.
Okay, okay.
we were gonna buy the.
Yeah.
Is there any reason in the opinion of any reason in the opinion of the board that amendment shouldn't be brought to the next meeting and taken up after the standards have been addressed, and if it is approval by the board?
I think that would be great.
It should
Do
be
it all at
fine.
one time.
I don't
Yeah.
see.
No
a
reason
problem.
to. Jay, don't forget, there's nothing documented of what we're doing.
Well, if we approve the commercial site plan, then he's right away at that same meeting submits the amendment request and an application, and all the money's been paid, all that kind of stuff. We can take it up, and all we do is look at the standard that affects that porch. That's the only thing we look at. So I don't know why we couldn't do that right at the end of the next meeting if we approve the whole.
You can. You
That sounds
definitely can.
perfect.
First,
Okay.
all
Good.
right.
I don't think we have any minutes to review. Is that
Yes,
correct?
we do. Yes, we do. December
Okay.
30th.
I don't know that I've seen any minutes,
I
so
haven't.
I won't be able to comment
It wasn't in my package.
Wasn't in mine?
unless they were emailed out like a month and a half ago and I just forgot.
Yeah.
They
I'll check
were?
with I'll
Yes.
check with Melissa tomorrow.
Okay, and I'll look in my old emails and then we can put that on the agenda next time and we'll be specific so that we'll make sure we get those and the minutes from tonight, I hope, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Do
great.
you get the minutes, Elizabeth, or do all of us get the minutes?
You all should get them.
I didn't get them,
I didn't get them.
either in my package or by email.
I
I
don't
get it.
remember getting them either, but
I'll
Frank
check
said
with
he'll
Melissa.
check on that. Okay. And then we'll address all of those next time. And does anybody have a motion about getting out of here?
Don't move.
I'm not allowed to make motions, so you guys got to speak up.
You are. Why can't you make a motion?
It's frowned upon apparently for chairs to make motions.
Oh, yeah?
You make lovely motions.
You haven't seen my moves.
Make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Anyone second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. And everyone in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. Thank you all. Thanks,
Thank you very
Scott.
much.
We'll
Thank you
see you
very much.
later. Good night.
God, good luck.
Thank you.
You can turn it back up now, honey.